Hello, lovely people. I'm back again with another little god ray of game development sunshine for you. This time, it's not database, programming, or asset creation related. Unfortunately, I want to talk about a problem I've been seeing increasingly over the last couple of years. This might affect you if you're already trying, or one day hope, to make money from your game dev related skills. I just want to say one thing before I get into this. Although some of this video might be seen to paint small indie game studios in a bad light, please understand that it's my belief the majority are founded by well-meaning, enthusiastic, skilled people who have a real love for the craft of making games and the community that surrounds it. And the purpose of making this video is to help both game devs and legitimate studios protect themselves from a minority of bad actors. That's an Unreal Engine joke right there. Okay, so what's the issue? I kind of found it difficult to accurately describe what's going on because the problem itself is rather broad and there are different categories of people involved. In a nutshell, people are advertising game dev related jobs as indie game studios, placing adverts in almost any place they can, and various shenanigans are going on, and invariably people are ending up hurt, upset, or even ripped off. Allow me to explain. Like many people interested in game development, I'm kind of nosy about various community goings on. As well as a healthy dose of YouTube game dev related content, I routinely scan the community postings on sites like itch.io and Reddit, and I often lurk around in various Discord servers. Having made quite a few friends in the community, I occasionally get asked what I think about various job postings. Okay, yeah, some of the posts are so bad that they get sent to me for a laugh, but other times they're forwarded by people who are legitimately interested in what is offered. Some of these ads are posted in the aforementioned places, and sometimes on specific pro-job posting websites. And again, people have come back to me and related their experiences with these things. While checking out some of these postings, little alarm bells started sounding in the back of my mind. In some cases, there was just a feeling that things weren't right, and in other cases, it was more obvious. Many of the postings literally reek of BS. You know what I'm talking about.
Hi there, I'm someone you never heard of, and I'm the CEO of Fly-By-Night MF Game Studios. We make games that are massive, popular, dynamic, and successful. We use all kinds of technologies, but prefer to ride the bandwagon of whatever is in right now. We're looking for popular, dynamic, successful individuals to join our massive, dynamic, successful, and popular workforce for the following successful and dynamic positions.
Literally every single role involved in game development.
Oh, and did I mention we're a leader in NFTs and blockchain-related things? Well, we are, because they're awesome, right? And we do them, so we're obviously awesome too.
So yeah, that was a little bit of an extreme example for comedic relief. But there are plenty of ads like that, which smell so bad, hopefully most people don't give them a second thought. The real problem, though, are the ads which are perhaps not so blatant. Before we get into the details of those things, and what you can do to protect yourself, let's talk about who is doing this, the perpetrators. Broadly speaking, there are two categories. Unintentional people who just get out of their depth, and intentional bad actors. The first category is often people who don't really understand what is actually required to fully produce and release games, hire staff, manage finances, and run a business, and may not have any of the required skills to do so. The second group are people who are intentionally trying to mislead others into believing that they are running legitimately successful, profitable professional businesses. I'll be honest with you, I'm generally a little more forgiving of the first category. Some people are genuinely keen to get together with others and pool their skills to create awesome games, which they do for fun. Subsequently, deciding to become your own boss and take things professional is great. And while enthusiasm is a superb commodity, some people just don't realize at the start that working with others to produce something profitable often takes a lot more planning and coordination than they had initially imagined. Also in this category are the people who have no real applicable skills. They don't code, they have no familiarity with any popular game engine, they don't produce art or audio assets, and they don't understand business or project management. But they think they have an idea for a game that no one else has ever thought of and want to get rich from it. Unfortunately, many of these top-secret game concepts have no real substance, and they could be summarized by 3 sentences written in crayon on the back of a napkin, stating the games that they want to rip off and one feature perhaps they would change, which in their view makes the whole thing unique. And of course, there's absolutely no form of game development document, but if you ask about one, you'll be told quite sternly that it's top secret, because otherwise people would steal the idea. I even spoke to one guy who honestly believed he was going to be successful by paying people on Fiverr to make his game for him. one asset at a time. But at least the only person he was going to hurt was himself. And then there are the CEOs. Setting themselves up as a CEO of a registered business is not the same thing as running a studio. Despite the general ideology prevalent in society today, in business, just because you say you are something, it doesn't automatically make it true. What that person may be is the CEO of a registered company that might aspire to become a game development studio. And that only means they have paid an often quite small amount of money, notified their government that they might do some business activities and should file certain data, and be taxed in a certain way on any profits they make. That's all it means. The trouble is that there is often no actual requirement to be competent in or even know anything about either game development specifically or operating a business in general to register a company. Bear in mind that various sources say 90% of startup businesses fail, often within the first 1 to 2 years. This is all well and good, you say, but if these people want to waste their time and money registering companies only to file closure a short time later, then let them get on with it, no? Well, it's not so simple. A business undertaking a project, any business, any project, needs to be managed properly to have the opportunity for a successful outcome. Managing the workers, cash flow, finances, resources, etc. I don't want to get into the specifics of project management here. It's a useful topic for another post as far as game development is concerned. But needless to say, before you start hiring people, you need to know, as well as you can, precisely what it is you are hiring them for and what you will be paying them for doing it, and that you are able to actually pay them. This is not any sensible business practice, but it's the morally correct thing to do. Putting the love of what they do aside for the moment, people generally work because they need to earn money. People have financial commitments, rent or mortgages, food or even healthcare. And while the process of hiring people may feel like some kind of swipe right power trip to those who are orchestrating it, the hirer needs to know up front that they will be able to respect the commitments they're making. This is more than just the promise or expectation of being paid in a green amount at specified times. It's the fact that to commit to something usually means that person is going to have to turn down or ignore other potential opportunities. Now, I can't stress this point enough. If you want to run your own game studio, or any other business for that matter, do not attempt to hire people unless, as far as is humanly possible, you can guarantee them an agreed amount of work and have the money up front to pay them for doing it. If you cannot honestly make that statement, then at the very least, be honest with the people about the nature of your endeavors. Tell them that you have an awesome idea and are operating on a shoestring budget while living in your grandma's basement and working part-time in a dry cleaner to make ends meet. If you have a great idea, develop it, pursue it, make it happen. By all means, involve others, and maybe they will love it as much as you. And even knowing the nature of the situation, still want to be involved. Infect other people with your enthusiasm and passion for the project. But please, stop trying to present an image of things which isn't true. Fake it until you make it. Might sound clever, cheeky, and entrepreneurial, but what you are actually doing is faking it until it falls down around you in a flaming mess of burning poop and hurts the other people you involved. Too many people who start down this path are only looking at their own perceived goals and not the people they might hurt along the way. So with that out of the way, let's move on to the second category, the intentional blaggers. These are people who, for one reason or another, are trying to deceive others into believing they are more than they actually are. The main reason people do this is obviously money. By setting themselves up to look like an established professional business with many happy employees, they might hope to gain investment more easily from crowdsourcing places like Kickstarter and Indiegogo. It doesn't stop there though. I know of 2 such businesses that purported to be indie game studios, but in fact were tempting creatives in with the offer of a job, setting test work for them to produce, and then selling the assets without paying the creatives anything. I'm not even sure there were actual game projects involved. In another circumstance, which I can't directly prove, I'm pretty sure the outfit was placing ads looking for similar skill sets as legitimate studios, and then trying to place anyone who applied with the actual studios. In essence, they were operating as an agency, but completely in secret from the people who might reply to the adverts, and obviously they'd be trying to take a sizable finder's fee, as agencies often do. The intentional blaggers are often people who have registered businesses. Those businesses might also be registered to residential addresses, but also often listed to business parks or office space rental locations. The company may be registered in a location which has nothing to do with the business itself, and this should be another red flag. If the business is registered out of state or even in a completely different country, you should be asking why. Sometimes there's a perfectly good reason for this, but often the answer is it's an attempt at dodging some kind of law, so be careful. They might place big adverts in prominent places, professional tech job sites, message boards and the like, jostling for space next to adverts from the likes of EA, Rebellion and Ubisoft, etc. That association alone can make those adverts seem somehow more legitimate. But again, we're often dealing with people who are not really running studios. There is often no actual physical business. Not that that's required, but we'll talk more about that later. They might have a website, even multiple websites, which may look somewhat professional. And then there are the job ads, lots of adverts in every conceivable location. They might even be paying to place adverts. Of course, none of this makes them a legitimate studio. And any potential gun for hire with game dev related skills should be wary. You may find you are working for a pittance, and they may even call it a trial or probationary period. They may want you to complete certain tasks as a demonstration of your skills. You may end up with little to no money for this, and they may even simply blank you and ignore all attempts to contact them. Some weeks or months later, you might find the demonstration assets you worked on being sold as part of an asset pack on one of the game dev marketplaces, and at this point, there's very little you can actually do about it. So, how do we tell potentially good opportunities apart from both the unintentional and the intentional bad actors? Firstly, there are no shortage of posts, including comments such as, "I am CEO of a game studio." It's not the end of the world, but it is a little red flag. Specifically, if they are not Yves Guillemot, Andrew Wilson, Jason Kingsley, Tim Sweeney, or someone similar, then they're probably just trying to make themselves sound big and important. A job advert is about the job, not about making the person who placed the advert feel big or important. Arguably, the role of the person who placed the ad is completely irrelevant. Also, a general rule, legitimate game studio CEOs are rarely, if ever, directly involved in personally spamming Discord servers with job ads.
Naughty Tim Sweeney. If I told you once, I told you a million times. Stop personally trawling for hobbyist game devs on my Discord server and just stick to that huge list of capable graduates, literally beating down your door for a chance to work at Epic. You bad boy.
Excuse me for a sec. Hello? What? Legally, I should say that as far as I know, Tim Sweeney never spammed any Discord servers with job postings. Okay. Sure. Yeah, thanks for that. Say hi to your mum for me. Yep, bye. Now, obviously, you might say, yeah, but those people you just mentioned are CEO of huge companies. Small indie houses don't have the luxury of so many staff, and everyone has to muck in as needed. And of course, you would be right, but that's not the point I'm really driving at here. Being the CEO, director, whatever term is used where you live, of an LLC or limited company or equivalent company structure does not make that person the CEO of a functional game development studio. Anyway, so rather than just complaining about all of this, what can we actually do about it? Firstly, there are a number of red flags to look out for when assessing a studio. If it has no completed or published games, even free ones. If it has no legitimate, permanent employees who are involved full-time in the day-to-day business. If it doesn't have any website, or if that website is a bit sketchy. If it's not actively promoting its current projects, with gameplay videos, screenshots, or even concept art. Is it a completely virtual business, the address of which may well be the CEO's parents' house, and there is no verifiable proof of business trading as a studio? If the people running it do not seem completely transparent and open about the actual situation. If the contact methods offered are all anonymous, no actual phone numbers or physical addresses, etc. And less specifically, if there is something about the setup that makes you feel kinda suspicious, don't ignore that. Trust your gut, as they say. Before you even consider responding to a job posting, do some research. Use the tools at your disposal to find out as much as you can about any outfit you see job postings you'd like to apply for. Any registered company should be searchable online. and the public details will give you the names and often addresses of the people involved. Follow every thread. Investigate those people registered to the company. Do they have any kind of rep online, either good or bad? Are they or have they been associated with other businesses? Do those businesses still exist? If not, what happened to them? If the current business is registered to a residential address, search to see if any other businesses are or have been registered to the same address. What did those businesses do? How long did they trade for? And why did they shut down? Find any associated social media accounts, either of the business itself, which is often not so useful, or of the people involved, which is usually much more interesting. Look at what they've been posting or have responded to on Twitter and Facebook. Do they seem like the kind of people you want to work for? Can you get an idea of their personal values from their postings? In some cases, you can see if these people have criminal records related to fraud or deception, or if key personnel who are not on the incorporation register but seem to be running the show are actually doing so because they're barred from running a company for whatever reason. Is there a website for the business and/or specific projects? Look at the dates. When was it created? How frequently is it updated? If it has its own domain name, look up the registration details for that. Who or what is it registered to, and when was it registered? Talk to other people. Find communities where others may have had contact or interaction with this business or with the people involved, and ask them what their views are. If you get the feeling that something isn't right at any point, then just walk away from that job posting. Discard it and move on. If your research does not ring any obvious and serious alarm bells, then you can consider moving on to the next stage, inquiring about the job. But before you do that, you need to understand something about the recruitment process that many candidates fail to grasp. It is a two-way street. Yes, if you think you have a chance at landing your dream job, it can feel all too much like being a contestant on a big TV game show, suddenly plucked from the studio audience and asked a bunch of questions. For any job, the candidate should be interviewing the business as much as the other way around. And that goes even more for situations where freelance or remote working are involved. Prepare a list of relevant questions before you speak to anyone. Sure, you want to know the specifics of the role and what will be required of you, but more importantly, you also want to know how mature is their business? When was it set up? What is its history? Who are the key players who formed this enterprise? A lot of this you should already have the answers to from your research, and you can compare their responses with what you already know. Don't give anything away though. Don't tell them you already know anything. Is their business solvent? What sort of financial situation are they in? Be respectful asking these kind of questions. Many people will be upset by blunt and rude financial probing. So explain why you want to know, because you need to understand they're reasonably stable and able to honour their commitments to you should you agree to work together. If this is a new studio and possibly their first game, then how are they actually funding hiring people? What legal protections are they prepared to offer you? For example, you can insist on retaining full rights to any code or assets that you create until full payment has been received for that work. This can only go so far in protecting you, but their response to the suggestion will perhaps give you an indication of their actual intentions. For remote working, there are some other things you should ask about. What resources are you expected to provide or fund yourself? Well-established businesses will often provide specific hardware and software already installed and configured for you to use. In fact, most major companies will insist on you using their hardware and software for a number of reasons. They will often provide financial assistance to remote workers in terms of paying something toward their expenses, such as the heating and power that is required at their home, which they would probably pay more for if they'd put that person in an office. Small startups will probably not offer you any of these things, and you should bear that in mind because you are not working as their employee in those cases. You are a freelancer or contractor, and the laws in most countries are very different in those situations. Continuing from the previous point, if you are instructed to sign an employee contract, that may well mean different things in different countries or regions, and come with attached legal obligations both to you and the business. The same goes for non-disclosure agreements, NDAs. They may or may not even be enforceable or legal in whole or in part in your particular jurisdiction. Seek legal advice from a competent legal professional qualified and registered to give such advice in your specific country or locale. In many cases, contracts given online are not worth the time given to them. For one thing, it's often not even possible to prove from either side that the people who supposedly signed a contract ever actually did so, as there were no witnesses present. Not to mention the ease with which such things can be faked, or the details of digital documents easily changed after the fact. There are, of course, acceptable ways of doing these things remotely, and secure web-based facilities for validating the identity of individuals and effectively witnessing the signing of documents. But these services cost money, and generally speaking, the smaller the business or the more fly-by-night it is, the less likely they will be to cover any costs they can get out of paying. Let me say it again, nothing in this video is valid legal advice. Seek legal advice from a competent legal professional qualified and registered to give such advice in your specific country. So, while there's certainly plenty more which could be said about this subject, this should be at least enough to make people a little more aware before they enter into a potentially harmful situation. I'd very much like to know what others in the game dev community think about this. Don't be shy now, share your thoughts and opinions, either drop a comment on the video or join the Discord server. And of course you can click the like button and subscribe to the channel to directly provide me with an artificial feeling of self-worth and value, which I wrap myself in for comfort like a blanket on lonely winter nights. As always, good luck in all your endeavours. See you next time.